My dad was like, what are you doing? You've got a grad scheme, £5,000 to £6,000 salary higher than the job I actually took.
Wow.
She says, you are saying no to Johnson & Johnson, the big pharmaceutical company. You're going to move to London and you're going to say no to that to work with somebody you've never met. You're getting paid less and you're going to sit at home working on your laptop. And I was like, fuck yes, sir.
Meet Shoaib Ahmed, the rebel behind 150 personal brands, 200 million impressions, and the agency that's redefining how founders show up online. This is personal branding done differently.
Your identity forms you and shapes you as the adult that you are today.
It was kind of quite unique in the sense that from the age of maybe 7, 8, I went to a school that was all white, and then I'd come home and then everybody would be brown, which is a tricky thing to navigate. Like, that wasn't okay what happened to me at like the age of 11. 8 years of racism. About 12 months ago, I started falling out of love with my business, and I would wake up not excited about work.
I was actually a little bit confused, and I'm thinking, oh shit, but everything was going okay. So what just happened? What just happened?
Yeah. Great question. So, the full story.
Shoaib, posting on LinkedIn makes a lot of people anxious. I know I'm one of them as well. How does it make you feel?
It makes me feel inspired. I used to feel anxious. I used to feel very anxious. But I think once you build reps and consistency and start to see what happens after you post on LinkedIn, you get excited about it. Like, I wake up each morning and I'm excited to post because it's like a conversation. That's me starting my day speaking to hundreds, thousands of people who I adore in my network, in my community, and seeing their response and you know, sharing my messaging. Because I believe in my content, excited.
Super interesting. To be honest, I wasn't expecting that answer, but I'm going to come back to that because I want to know why. I'm going to dig deeper
For sure.
a little bit.
Yeah.
But let's go back to your family, to your family's immigration journey. So was it your parents? Was it your grandparents? Who moved here and when?
Yeah, so it was my grandparents who moved to the UK from Pakistan. The timelines are a bit difficult to actually know because it wasn't tracked. Like, when my granddad came over, it was part of the kind of post-World War rebuild of Britain, but his paperwork and documents kind of got lost in the process. And so we actually didn't know his age.
Wow.
When both my grandparents passed away, we didn't actually know their age. So it's a bit of a grey area actually in family history, and I think people are still trying to put that together. But you know, they came over, and then they had my dad, and then my dad married my mum, who was born in Pakistan. So my dad was born here, my mum was born in Pakistan. She came over at the age of 18. And she came to the UK not knowing a word of English. She didn't actually have an education in Pakistan. She, I think up until the age of 8, she was educated, and she sadly lost her mum and basically became a caregiver at the age of 8 to her 3 younger siblings, which I imagine was really tough. And then she came over when she was 18 and then had me and my brother.
So do you have ties with Pakistan? Do you go back?
I'm literally going there in 2 weeks' time.
Oh, yeah.
So I think that'll be the 7th or 8th time that I'll have gone. So every couple of years, usually when there's like a wedding or some family thing. But yeah, I still have family over there. I have aunties and cousins. So yeah, I love it. I love going over there. It's so different. And it's not something I actually talk about ever in my content. Maybe you've just given me a great content idea there. It's a whole part of my identity that I haven't really explored when it comes to like building my personal brand. But yeah, it's definitely an important part.
No, absolutely. I mean, and your identity or your childhood or your upbringing is what forms you and shapes you as the adult that you are today. So, I mean, walk me through that a little bit. So, I mean, your mom comes here when she's 18. So she obviously has Pakistani roots and she's now in a land where she doesn't speak the language. Your dad, the complete opposite. How does that work for them? And does that reflect in your identity and your upbringing?
For sure. So my dad grew up in a very multicultural area in West Yorkshire. And so his parents obviously both from Pakistan, and our entire street was, very much an immigrant, full of immigrants from all walks of life, but very Pakistani, Indian, Bangladeshi kind of heritage. So I grew up with a lot of people who looked like me and spoke Punjabi and Urdu. But then it was kind of quite unique in the sense that from the age of maybe 7, 8, I went to a school that was all white. So I'd go to school as the only non-white person, and then I'd come home and then everybody would be brown. So it's kind of a weird dynamic to my day. And then it was funny because then I went to a high school, secondary school, and again, I was one of, I think, 2 non-white people in my entire year out of 250 kids.
Wow.
Which is a tricky thing to navigate at the time because you don't have the language to articulate issues of like race and identity and belonging. But obviously, I noticed it. I felt it. I felt different in some way. And it's only when you kind of grow up and understand the world that you realize, wow, like my identity had a huge impact on my childhood and growing up and like day-to-day interactions. And looking back, I think, things that happened that they weren't okay. Like that wasn't okay what happened to me at like the age of 11. That was explicit racism. But at the time, as a kid, you don't have the language to articulate that or even the emotional capacity to understand what is going on. So yeah, it was interesting because I was navigating friendship circles with people who had grown up in very white areas. I played for a football team for 8 years for a local football team, and that in itself is a whole separate thing as a brown person in a very northern white space. The 8 years of racism.
Wow.
Is what it was like. But you get like at the time you don't think that. It's only looking back on it, I'm like, wow, that was a lot.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in Dubai. Obviously things are different there because it's a very multicultural, society. I don't know if I think you've been to Dubai already, so you know the space. So it's really interesting for me, how, and for me, since I've moved to the UK, so I moved to the UK about 5 years ago. And for me, it's like, I moved from Dubai to another Dubai in some sorts because again, London is very multicultural. You see people from all walks of life. And I think it's brilliant. I think it's beautiful. So I didn't have the experience that you had. So I'm just trying to understand also, and it's also very interesting, how would your parents adopt to that? Because you don't have a language to articulate what you're going through, but I'm sure your parents perhaps kind of know, maybe they're also feeling some sort of that element. And then they obviously are cognizant of the fact that, you're their child. So I'm sure they're feeling something. So was there something in the house that you guys talk about or not really as well?
Not really. I think that's also a cultural thing.
Yeah.
In a lot of Asian households, those subjects are taboo. Even things like mental health is still very much unspoken about. And I think also my parents had very different experiences to me. So my dad, he was born here. His experience was very different to my mum's. He came over here at the age of 18 as an immigrant. Then my experience was very different as 2 parents who were based in the UK and someone who was born in the UK, but it was a next generation. And social media kind of came into the question, tech and the world of online. So all of us, I think, were navigating race and
in your own way,
identity in different ways, but never really. It wasn't at the forefront of my mind growing up, but it was there. It lurked in the background, and it coloured my experience of life. Pardon the pun.
So how do you think that has shaped you as a person today? I mean, at that time, now you're reflecting back and you're thinking, oh shit, there was a lot of racism and that was not okay. But at that time, you didn't really know, you didn't understand, but it was shaping you as an individual. What sort of an impact do you think it has on you today?
That's a good question. It's something I don't sit about and think often, because I have that attitude where I'm just like, it is what it is, get on with it. That's just who I am. But I remember, like, at school, there was a 2-3 year period where, I used to be really confident and like loud and outspoken as a child. I was that really like annoying kid in school, who would always like want to get involved in everything and put his hand up for everything. And I was quite young. And then I think when I hit like the teenage years, where social media came into play and you see like a darker side to other people, that knocked my confidence massively. And I remember being in high school and feeling lonely for the first time in my life, even though I had amazing friends, but friends who just couldn't relate to me. And even no matter how much I explained, like, they still couldn't relate. And I think because I didn't fully understand what I was going through, like I couldn't expect anybody else to. I felt at times very lonely. I felt very like misunderstood as well. And then, I think I lost a lot of confidence, probably 3, 4, 5 year period from the age of maybe 11 till like 17, where I then stopped putting my hand up in lessons. I stopped putting myself forward for things. And I noticed, looking back, I wanted to just blend in. But like, you can't blend in when you walk into a room because like you're physically different to other people, right? And then it was only university, and then I actually studied social geography at university. So at that point, I was now looking purposefully into issues of race and immigration and geopolitics and the world at large. And so I was studying things like colonialism and race and identity and all these things. And that's when I rebuilt my confidence, because I finally understood and I had a language to articulate my experience for the first time.
So was that by design? Did you deliberately want to go into that?
Absolutely not. I just loved studying geography. I always wanted to enter business or marketing.
Okay.
But I didn't want to do a business or marketing degree because I always felt like it was very theoretical, and I could do a business or marketing degree 5 times over, but that's nothing like actually building a business and the skills you get from relentless execution. So I was like, if I want to learn about business, I have to go in and do it, like all of it. Like, I have to do the work.
Yeah.
So I thought, what do I enjoy? What do I love doing? I'm going to study that. And so I studied geography, and then made a pivot back into marketing and business through other means. But yeah, race and all that, it definitely has affected like my life today, but I see it as a real positive now. And it's just another element of who I am. That's all. It's just another aspect of my identity. And something that's very important that I do speak about more, because when I started in business, I didn't know a lot of other South Asian business owners. To this day, I don't. I'm in a world like marketing, and especially online marketing, personal branding, the creator economy. There's not a lot of us.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah.
As a niche, like, if you go into the healthcare industry or if you go into law, you're more likely to see, because it's more of a traditional subject, and a lot of, especially immigrant parents, to push
medicine as well.
Yeah, it's kind of push their kids into those because they're typically kind of respectable professions. And the creator economy is brand new. So if you have immigrant parents that who aren't tech savvy,
so what are you doing?
They don't even understand. Like, I don't even think my mom fully understands what my job is today. I don't even think she grasps that I'm like self-employed. I was ill a few months ago. She's like, just call in sick. I was like, Mom, I can't call in sick. I have no one to call. I can't run this off. Yeah. So yeah. there's not a lot of us in this space, which is why I think it's even more important for me to be vocal. And especially this year, since I've made a pivot in my business, I've really wanted to be more intentional about what I talk about and like showing up in full force as 100% authentically myself.
Shoaib, just going back to your high school years, you felt, you were trying to blend in, but obviously you can't.
Yeah.
You don't know how to navigate that because you also are struggling to articulate that to your friends and to your peers, your parents. You're not talking about it at home. Two questions. One, do you think the world has changed since then? Second, even if it's changed, I'm sure there are struggles even today. I mean, what should we do as a society at large? Because I'm sure kids today are also somehow going through that, maybe at different levels, but they are.
That's a big question. I would say, I think the first thing is, kids can be cruel. Like, regardless of generation or timing in history, like, it's a lack of, I'm sure a lot of those kids who maybe said or did things that weren't particularly pleasant at the time, have massive regrets today because they've just grown up. And now social media has obviously come into play, and there's young kids are exposed to more extreme, graphic racism online. So I don't think the problem ever goes away, but the most powerful thing is role models for me, is seeing somebody in a position that I want to be in, who looks like me, who talks like me, who sounds like me. It doesn't have to be about race. It could be gender. It could be sexuality. It could be neurodivergence. It could be somebody with a stammer, If you've grown up with a stammer all your life and you see somebody on stage speaking with a stammer and owning it, like, how powerful is that to that young person? I think that's it. It's about believing in the possibilities and not thinking, oh, I can't do that, or I can't go into that industry because it's not for me. If you have that belief, I genuinely think it's life-changing. But if you don't see something, how do you know that you can achieve it? Which is why visualization is so important as well, right?
Absolutely. I mean, perhaps that was a big question, but that's a great answer. Representation is super important, 100%. So university.
Yes.
You finished university, and then what next? You didn't want to go into that because you thought you always wanted to get into marketing, sales, business.
So in second year, I had a choice. So I applied. I was always quite studious. I always wanted to level up my career. I was always ambitious. So I was applying for internships, placement years, like any work experience I could, even whilst I was studying at uni. And then I got 2 offers. It was three actually. One was teaching. One was in the civil service, so the Department of Defence and Security, which was very aligned with geography. And then one was in marketing here in industry. So 3 very different things. And I picked the marketing one. So I took a year out of uni to go to work in a marketing and media agency in London, actually, in Brixton, which was the best launch pad for a career. It was a small startup, which I massively recommend if you want to get into business, or if you just want to get really good hands-on experience working in a small company. I was sat next to the marketing director. Behind me was the head of creative. In front of me was the marketing manager, and then I had the sales team just there. So for me, the learning experience was amazing. I was involved in all the conversations. I heard everything that went on. I saw how a business ran from the ground up. I did that for a year, and I loved it. And also, that's how I got into personal branding, because it was a company that specialized in student employability. So they'd work with employers to help students get internships and work experience. So part of my job was to speak to the students and help them become more employable. So I would go into universities, ironically, as a university student myself, and speak to students and be like, this is how to write a really good CV. This is how to build your confidence. This is how to build a personal brand. And then I, write the newsletters that went to all our students who signed up all around the country. There was hundreds of thousands of students who signed up to this company to elevate their career. And I was, I guess, the voice a little bit for all those students. Essentially, I was helping them build their personal brand, but that wasn't the language I had to articulate at the time, because I didn't know what a personal brand was. It was just like, boost your employability. So when I left that role, I had a lot of marketing skills and an understanding of like positioning and content and using the online space and networking. And I started posting on LinkedIn whilst I was at that company, because COVID happened. And then I was put on furlough. So I had 6 months before I went back to uni. I was still getting paid from the company, but I wasn't working. So I thought, what do I do now? I went on LinkedIn. And that's when I started posting properly on LinkedIn for the first time about 5.5 years ago.
Oh, wow. The rest is history then, I guess.
Yeah.
But we will talk about it.
Yeah, sure.
So obviously this is, pre-ChatGPT, AI. You're writing your own post. I'm sure a lot of people are writing their own post now as well, but there's a lot of help from AI. Was writing something that you were good at from the beginning, or there was a skill that you honed?
I was just kind of average at writing. I was like a maths student. I was a maths and science student at school. But I always loved just like building things. It sounds a bit like hard to describe, but at like the age of 8, I would get a piece of paper and like create like a club or a community, and I'd create invites. And this was at the age of 8. I'd create these little invites on A4 paper, and I'd go to the local shop and I'd get them photocopied at 10p per page. And I'd go to all the houses on our street and put them through the letterbox for all the other kids. And I was like, we're going to meet here at this time on the weekend, and we're all going to like play a game or something. And like by the end of the week, there'd be like 20 kids in my back garden, and we'd all be like, and like looking back, that was like me building a little community, right? Like a little business. And we'd all sit there, and it must have been so weird for like parents to be like, what are these 8-year-olds on these little plastic chairs just sat around? And then I did loads of little things like that. So I was always interested in creating something that I could see and touch and feel and was community driven. So I think that was maybe why I was so interested in LinkedIn, because it's just a massive global network that you can't get access to anywhere else.
But was there like an agenda behind it, or you're just posting randomly?
Okay. My only agenda was to get a job.
Oh, okay.
Right. So I was a student, and I knew that the job market was in absolute tatters because of COVID. And not only was my year graduating, but the year before, they had entered a job market that essentially had collapsed, and all the big companies were cancelling all their graduate schemes. So I was like, oh my gosh, it's going to be so competitive for me to get a job. How can I stand out? And so I started posting on LinkedIn, and it was just sharing, the story of me being a placement student at that company. So I was like talking about, this is how I built like a marketing campaign for this company, and this is how we signed up X amount of students. Or here's like a social trend that we're seeing at the moment that's really working. And these posts were getting like 7 likes, and they were all colleagues and my best friend. Like it wasn't a big thing, but I just kept at it. And it was funny because people in the company would say to me like, every time I did something, they were like, are you going to put that on LinkedIn as well? Are you going to put that on LinkedIn? I became known as like the kid who
LinkedIn guy.
Yeah, the LinkedIn guy, even though the content was crap, but I kept at it, and I did it for like a year and a half. And then somebody else messaged me and slid into my DMs and said, I'm a personal branding agency founder. I'm about to hire somebody first full-time. And I see you're posting content on LinkedIn. You seem pretty confident. Do you want to have a little trial run? And I was like, oh, okay, cool. So I went back to uni, did my final year, and worked part-time for this guy, who's full-time. Do you know Sam Winsbury?
No.
He owns Kurogo.
Okay.
It's a personal branding agency in the UK. It's quite big now. And I was his first full-time employee.
Oh, wow.
So I did that for 6 to 12 months ish, and then I rejected a grad scheme offer from a big pharmaceutical company to work for this guy that I'd never met, who was my age, from my parents' bedroom on a laptop. My dad was like, what are you doing? He was like, you've got a grad scheme I think it was £5,000 to £6,000 salary higher than the job I actually took.
Wow.
She says, you're a graduate in the COVID job market. You are saying no to a company, a FTSE 100 company, Johnson & Johnson, the big pharmaceutical company. You've got great pension. You're going to move to London. Like, you're set up for life. And you're going to say no to that to work with somebody you've never met. You don't even have a job contract. You're getting paid less. There's no guarantee in it. And you're going to sit at home working on your laptop. And I was like, fuck yes, I am. I was like, this is it, because I enjoy it. And if there's any time to take a risk, it's now. And I did that. I did it for 6 months with him. And then I left and started freelancing. And then that's how my business started.
Wow. Just coming back, because you just started on LinkedIn and you said you started posting on LinkedIn because you wanted to just get a job.
Yeah.
How did you know posting on LinkedIn is going to land you a job? At least I wouldn't know in 25 years ago, because things, the whole LinkedIn landscape has changed dramatically.
Mm-hmm.
I would think, okay, if I want to get a job on LinkedIn, I just start DMing people.
Yeah.
Why am I posting content? Like, that logically would not make sense to me. Why did it make sense to you?
Because I wanted to work in marketing. And I knew that having a CV with, technical experience is great. But in the job market that I was graduating into, I had to do something more than that.
Gotcha.
So I thought, I'm essentially building a live portfolio in real time.
Mm-hmm.
So I would study, things like Adweek and Marketing Week, all the big websites, the big publishers in the marketing space, and look at how they were talking about campaigns in the media. And I'd dissect them. And I'd go away and study, like, oh, this is how, Red Bull got this many signups onto this campaign. And I'd go away and I'd study it, and I'd read loads of articles and blogs. And then I'd do courses in digital marketing at the same time. And then I'd go on Google Analytics and create a free account and import data sets and just play about in Google Analytics. And I guess it was just learning through doing. So then I could say, if in an interview, if you sat here and interviewed me and I was 21, I could say to you, yes, I'm 21 and I've just finished a geography degree, which is not marketing. But I can use Google Analytics. I can build you a Facebook ads campaign. I can write your website copy. And here's the proof of me doing it. Like, it's not a company campaign, but it's a mock campaign. And I've used my initiative to do that. And that was my thinking. That experience that I'd create myself would go much further than a CV would with a degree. Because a degree was a tick box at the end of the day. For most jobs.
Yep.
In marketing especially, you don't need a degree to get into it. So that's why I did it.
Love that. And now, as we know, it applies to any industry, not just marketing.
Yes.
You put yourself out there, you become the thought leader in the space, and then, yeah. So how did you know 6 months was all it needed for you to now go solo, start your own freelancing? Like, I mean, again, was there a strategy behind that? Okay, it's going to be 6 months and this is my long stop date, and then I'm going to transition?
No, there's no strategy. I never planned to start my own business and leave that company. I kind of wanted to stay and build it from the ground up. But it just didn't work out that way. And I didn't feel like I could really cement my mark in a company that was such an early stage company where the founder had his own growth plans, which is absolutely fine, but it was a different trajectory to kind of where I wanted to go. So I essentially said, I put all my cards on the table. I said, listen, I'm here for the long run. Like, please use me, leverage me. I want to build this business ground up with you. I don't want to just be the person who's employed in a 9-to-5. I'm more ambitious than that, and I want more pay. And he said no. So I handed in my notice the next day.
I love that.
And then I had 30 days, and I aggressively used LinkedIn in those 30 days. When I handed in my notice, I had a 30-day period, and I posted every day. And I mean, in the meantime, I was still building my brand.
Sure.
Because it was a personal branding agency I was working for. So obviously I was still creating content and building my network. And I met a few people offline, and I, networked as you do. And so by the time my notice period ended, I already had 3 people who were kind of like intrigued in working with me. So when I left, I think it was the 1st of January 2022, I put a video on LinkedIn in my parents' house in the dining room with a very grainy camera. And I was like, today I'm going freelance, and if you want to work with me, this is what I do. And by the end of that month, I had 9 clients.
Wow.
And then 3 months later, we registered as a limited company.
Wow.
And in 6 months, I made my first hire. And then it kind of skyrocketed from that. But it was down to my personal brand, because it was the people on my LinkedIn who became my first clients, and amazing people who kind of took a shot on me. You know, they didn't have to do that. I was just a 22-year-old kid with not a lot of experience, but a shit ton of ambition. And I was like, trust me, you hiring me right now is the best decision you're going to make, because right now my fees are so low. You're going to get really good value work and you're not going to pay a lot. And in 3 years down the line, if you don't take a bet on me now, I'm going to be charging 10 times more. So it's your choice.
Sure, you're very confident, by the way.
I was quite delusional.
Yeah, well, sorry, delusional, yes, but
in a positive way.
Yeah, no, and I think, you know, as a quote unquote founder, I think delusionality is super important. If you don't trust in yourself, nobody else will. But where do you think this confidence or this, working hard, relentless, being the relentless person, where does it stem from?
It stems from not being confident at all and having to like climb out of a rut of just not being in a great place. So kind of around the age of like 16 to 21, I would say. Like there's a point where I was going to drop out of uni, where I just wasn't happy. And I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I had loads of like identity issues, and I just was really confused about life. I was just like, I don't know what I want to do career-wise. I don't have people in my life that I really like I'm close to. And I don't feel like anyone really understands me. And also I was at a university that was, half the students there were privately school educated, and again, I was one of the only non-white people there. And so I found it really bizarre because I couldn't relate to people. And I would talk about like, oh, like I'm applying for these jobs and internships, and the person next to me in my lecture theatre would be like, oh, I'm off on a 6-month holiday to Bali because my dad owns a law firm. So after I graduate, I'm just going to do that. Or I've got a family business that I'll just take over. And so I was there aggressively applying for jobs and doing interviews and virtual assessment centres and researching and going to the careers department every week, like to get support. And most people just didn't need to do that. So I felt a bit like alone in that process. And so loads of things stacked on top of each other. And then when I took that year off and went to London and did that work experience, removed myself from that environment of university, I gained independence for the first time. I was forced out of my comfort zone, and I was like, I'm in London. This is like the second time I've ever been in London, and I'm living here now. I've got to make friends, and I've got to work in the office. And I had amazing people around me, and they gave me a lot of confidence. Like my first proper manager, she gave me so much confidence, which is why I always say now, like, if you're in an early career, choose your manager, don't choose the job, because what your manager can give you is like the launch pad of your career. So I've become more confident through that, and then also having to like prove myself because people underestimate you. So I'm always like, I'm going to prove you wrong. In my head, little me was like, you watch, I'm going to prove you wrong. And then starting the business, when you see success, even if it's like really small, it could be in anything, it gives you like, oh, wait a minute, I can do this. And so every time I got a little bit of success, I was like, okay, that's like an extra block to my confidence. And it just kept going and kept going. And then it seeped into other areas of my life, like health and fitness and well-being and social and relationship and wealth. And suddenly I'm like, I can do it. And I'm proof of it. So why wouldn't I be confident about that?
Love that. So then you start your business. Things are going great.
Yep.
And recently, was it recently? I think sometime last year, about 6 months ago-ish,
Yeah.
I saw a post where, I think it was a sequence of posts, if I'm not mistaken. The one team member's gone, and the second and third, and then finally you say, okay, you know what? I've now become a solopreneur again. I've just let go of the whole team. So I was actually a little bit confused. And I'm thinking a lot of people following you, because I've been following you for many years now. And I'm thinking, oh shit, but everything was going okay. So what just happened? What just happened?
Yeah. Great question. So, the full story. About 12 months ago, I started falling out of love with my business. And I would wake up not excited about work. And that was a really bizarre feeling, because for the first 2 years of my business, I was running on pure adrenaline. Like, I was like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. I'm earning more money than I've ever earned. I am having so much like fun and freedom, and I'm unlocking all these incredible opportunities. And then I kept hitting like my target of like, I want to hit X amount revenue per month, and I'd hit it. And then I'd raise the target, and then I hit it. I kept going and kept going, kept going. And I was working myself like to the bone, and it was becoming unhealthy. And I was working like 18, 20-hour days. And I remember there was like a week where I was working so much, and I was having like 3-4 cans of Red Bull a day. I always joke about this now, but just drinking loads of Red Bull just to stay awake. And I was sat on my laptop, and my eyes were literally closing, and I was like, I've got to finish this, And I got a bag of ice from the freezer and put it on my legs. I was wearing shorts just to like keep myself awake.
Shit.
And I was looking back now, I was thinking about this the other day. I was like, that is chaotic. That is really unhealthy.
Fucking crazy.
I was like,
wow.
I was just trying to keep my eyelids open by trying to like freeze my legs. She's crazy.
Wow.
About. But that was like, I was like, this is hustle. This is a grind day, yeah. And it wasn't. It was really fucking bad. And I did that, and so that was one element of it. I wasn't looking after myself. I put on about 3 stone in weight, pure fat.
Wow.
Really unhealthy. I was looking through my phone today and seeing the photos. I was like, oh my gosh, I was like really big, unhealthily. And so that was one element. The other element was I stopped enjoying the process because it was so busy. I just felt I was chasing thing after thing after thing after thing. I didn't have time to breathe or enjoy what I was doing. I was just putting out fires left, right, and center. I had an amazing team though. Love my team. Still speak to them to this day. Awesome people. But I told them way in advance. I think they knew as well. They could see it in me from the start, like the excitement that I had. It was kind of dwindling, and my battery was low, and my energy was low, and I wasn't as excited about everything. And maybe some of my standards started slipping as well. And then we hit our biggest revenue month as a business. So there was only me and 2 full-time staff, the 3 of us. And I had a virtual assistant as well. And we hit a 30K revenue month. And I was like, this is really good, because like the profitability is really high in the business. We don't have any expenses. We're fully remote agency. We don't have any equipment. And that month I decided I'm stripping it all back. If I keep going at this point, our peak, I'll never go back down, and I'll just keep chasing and chasing and chasing and chasing. And it's just going to become really toxic. So I told my team, and they were amazing. They understood. And I gave them loads of notice. I said, look, if you don't have a job lined up, I'm not going to just say, go. You can stay as long as you need to secure work. I'm not going to like throw you under the bus or anything. And I even put posts out and introduced them to people in my network, and they all got jobs. And then I they left and did their own thing. And then I went back to it just being me. So I was worried at the time. I was like, are people going to think like his business is failing? That was like a real anxiety for me, because I built my entire thing in public, and now it looked as if it was crumbling and falling apart. But actually it was the opposite. We were doing really well, to the point of I was growing toxically attached to this like growth trajectory. And now I look back and think, I didn't scale back. I didn't go backwards. I actually moved forward. Revenue went down, obviously, because it went from a team of 4 people to just me. But I was earning more per hour. The profitability is higher. I work half the time. I've lost all that negative weight. I travel way more without my laptop. So to me, that is growth. But on paper, in this kind of hustle narrative mindset, there's people it would look like it's gone backwards. And I'm the happiest that I've ever been in my life. So I would do it all again in a heartbeat.
Wow. You know, that's really powerful. And I'm thinking, I don't know if I would be able to do that. Because you're absolutely right. When I saw that post, I'm like, oh shit, something's wrong. You know, because he's been talking about how amazing things are. And then all of a sudden he strip backs everything. So definitely something is wrong. Or yeah, it's not, you know, social media expectation versus reality. Obviously the reality is not, you know, what people portray, and the business, it wasn't as good and whatever. So I'm thinking, wow, if I was in your shoes, I'd be like, oh shit, my lifeline is my posts on LinkedIn. And if I'm making 30K a month, I'm like, oh shit, like it's very difficult to take that step back. Maybe it also comes back to your confidence. I don't know what it is, but I mean, that's a very hard decision. A lot of people wouldn't be able to take that. And I think there's a big learning, priorities in life. You know, what should be the priority in life? You know, what is a real priority? Money is important, for sure. We all need money. How much is relative. And then after that, beyond that, once you've hit that threshold where you've got a roof over your head, you're paying your bills, you've got food, you're taking care of your loved ones, whatever that may be, then what? And I think, you know, it's all about your cup being full. We spoke about, you know, mental health as well, how in South Asian communities, we don't talk about mental health and so on. We're obviously in the mental health, I'm in the mental health space. I have my own mental health agenda, journey.
Yeah.
So your cup being full, I think that's really a very good reminder, because if your cup is not full, you're not good for yourself or anybody around you. So, I mean, you're really talking about priorities, like, you know, what's the point? What really is the point then? So like, I don't really know what was going on in your head. I know you taking care of yourself, but like, I mean, that was a very tough decision. And you know, off the back of, oh shit, then what if I lose all the business? Then it's gonna impact me, negatively again.
Yeah.
I was like, oh shit, now I don't have money. That's so much stress.
For sure. And that was a real big concern, because I actually didn't just let go of my team. I let go of loads of clients. So I actively had to email my clients and say, I'm making changes in my business. Sadly, after working with some of you for a year and a half, I'm not able to provide this service anymore, because I don't have the capacity anymore, like, to help you. But I can refer you to other people, and I did. I referred a lot of my clients to other people in my network, which, again, some people found that a bit bizarre. Like, I'm giving you to a competitor in a way. And I didn't ask for anything in return, but then I thought, okay, now I've got fewer clients. What if those clients were to leave? The ones I've chosen to keep on building with, what if something happened in their business beyond my control? I'd be back at zero with no team, no business, no income. But it was a risk I was willing to take for some reason. So in the last 6 months, there's been months where I keep saying we as if I still have a team. There's been months where I've earned more as a solopreneur than I had with a 4-person team.
Oh, amazing.
And that sounds crazy to me because I haven't felt overworked, and I felt like I've got really good work-life integration, and I'm working on really meaningful work. I changed some of my services. I've started LinkedIn coaching and personal branding in terms of like more one-to-one. So rather than doing it for you, I can help do it with you and train you how to do it yourself. And that's been really fun. I love the teaching element of what I do. So that's been quite exciting. And then exploring other things as well. I've done a lot more speaking, focused on my content quite a bit more. Just following things that I enjoy. And I'm much happier for it.
Talking about your teaching, by the way, me and my team also loved, because we took a coaching session from you as well. So I would highly recommend anyone listening to this pod do, because we also did take a few coaching sessions from other people.
Yeah.
Because you're trying,
Different
trying to get the best, But I must say, and this is just unanimous, me and my team, like we all loved you. And we just thought, oh my God, like this guy was just bloody brilliant. So, and since then I'm like, okay, whenever we get the chance, we'll get you on the pod. So yeah, I highly recommend anyone listening to this pod to get your services as well. But I think it's when you also, it's also interesting when you do something that you're really passionate about or you really love. I think money is just byproduct. Money follows. And I think the quality over quantity, that's I mean, it's great that things worked out for you, and hopefully they keep doing the way you planned or not planned. But I mean, you're putting good shit out there, and I think that is important. And I think you're doing good for yourself. I think that is important. Talking about you winning a lot of people, I think this will be really interesting for a lot of people to hear as well. Because managing a team, great that you had a great team. I have a great team as well, but that also comes with its own challenges. Managing people. I keep saying this to myself and my team as well. No 5 fingers on your hand are the same. So managing different people, that just you're a psychologist, you're like a mentor, you're like a manager, all in one capacity, whilst doing your full-time job on top of it. So I can appreciate the challenge managing people as well. So a lot of people now moving into the space would perhaps also want to, or at least not by design, will start as a solopreneur, like you did as well.
Yeah.
I asked you when we first started the pod, if social media or posting on LinkedIn makes you anxious. And you said, no, it doesn't. It used to, but now it doesn't. If, again, how do people start? Why it doesn't make you anxious? As a solopreneur, if I wanted to start something on LinkedIn today, where do I start? What do I do?
Okay. You want some advice?
Yes, please.
Okay. So first thing I would say is identify who you're speaking to, right? So if you have an idea for your business, whether it's a service, product, whatever, you need to really get granular with who you're targeting. I don't just mean build like a ICP profile, the age, the demographic. No, we're going beyond that. What is the one problem that manifests and keeps manifesting in that person's life, right? What's the obstacle for them to achieving the success that they want? Is it a speed thing, right? Is it a time issue? Is it a skill-based issue? Somebody might come to me for LinkedIn personal branding services. They might come to me because they don't know how to write good content. They might come to me because they don't have the time to write good content. They might come to me because they don't enjoy writing good content. So I'm now looking at my target audience, but through the lens of what are their frustrations? And there might be multiple. No 2 buyers are the same, right? So identify at the top level roughly who you're speaking to, and then pull out the different types of buyers, okay? What this person buys because they need speed, this person needs convenience, this person needs support, accountability. Identify those things, right? Now we're going to try and solve those pains one by one. So your content needs to speak to those different buyers. And the content also needs to embed proof that you're good at what you do. So you can't just talk about, here are 5 tips to do this. Because everybody can do that. ChatGPT can do that, especially in the age of AI. So what you need is proof that you can do it, proof that you've done it for somebody like that person, And then a differentiator that makes people want to work with you. Because people might love your service, but if there's no inclination to kind of like, I really want to work with that person. I need them. Like, there's some energy about them that I want. You have to have that as well. So whether it's using humor in your content, being really entertaining, or whether it's been really inspiring or empowering through your words or messaging, or whether it's been really personable. Because 5 tips to boost your website's SEO, anyone can do. But saying something like, here's how I took a beauty founder brand and improved their conversion rate about X%, all from a 13-minute conversation I had on the tube. Suddenly it's interesting. It's the same logic. You're sharing the same expertise, but you're framing it in a way that's way more interesting because it feels personable. It feels interesting. It feels like a story. So to come back to your question, I'd say find your target audience, speak directly to their pain points, their frustrations, the things that are holding them back, and think on an emotional level, right? So don't just think, oh, their problem is they don't know how to build a personal brand. So I'm going to say, here's how to build a personal brand. What you want to say is, their problem is they're not signing enough clients to make revenue. So they're having a lot of stress in their business. They're unable to hire more people because they don't have the budget to do so, because they don't have a sales funnel, because they're not getting consistent, reliable leads. What's that causing? A lot of late night stress, right? That's causing them a lot of issues. That's causing them that kind of midnight panic when you're laid in bed and you're thinking, where's my next client coming from? You want to tap into these different emotions and bias states and really convince people that you can help them solve that problem.
So once I've understood this, Shoaib, I think the biggest problem people have is that, okay, so why would people want to listen to me? Like, who am I? I'm trying to now position myself as a thought leader, as an expert, because now I've understood the pain point. I know that I can solve this pain point. I don't have enough following. I mean, how many people are actually listening? Like how many people will actually see this content?
Yeah.
And that's the one problem. Second, like, why me? Like, who am I?
Yeah.
How do you go past that?
I think a lot of that is like inner confidence. So I would say for many people, they don't post content online because they don't feel confident in their service or product. Which is crazy to say, but the amount of people I've hopped on a call with and they say, I want to build my personal brand. And I say to them, how good is your service out of 10? And they say, it's good. And I'm like, no. You need to say it's bloody brilliant. Because if you don't believe it, how are you then going to convince other people that you're amazing at what you do? So I'd actually go a step back just for a minute, if I can, is if you don't feel 100% confident in your product or service, hone your craft. Because you can't become a thought leader on a mediocre offer. What I did at the beginning was I charged really low rates. I did some free work and I went all in with a few clients and I really over-delivered. So they bought from me 3 posts a week. I delivered 5 posts a week, no extra charge, right? They bought 1 monthly analytics call and I did 1 every week instead of 1 every month. I bought software to help me hone my skills as I was writing for them. And they saw that I was not just investing in them, but I was investing in myself to then help them even more. And so I got the results over time and I got amazing case studies and I used those case studies, distributed them to more people, and I had proof of concept, right? I had proof that this worked. So if you don't yet have proof or testimonials or data or things to back you up, you're not going to feel confident because there's nothing, you don't have the tools and resources to be like, look at this. So if you don't have those things, first get them. And if that means taking a step back and not, putting out flashy marketing, do it, because that's going to make you better at your job. I always say it's easier to retain clients than it is to acquire new ones.
100%.
When I left, when I kind of became a solopreneur, I had 3 clients that I retained. 6 months later down the line, I'm still working with those 3 clients and I haven't had to do any aggressive marketing because those clients know they're getting a really good deal and I'm over delivering for them. So firstly do that. Once you're convinced you've got an amazing service or product, you then need to talk about it. I did a post this morning where I put a post on LinkedIn a few weeks ago saying I'm available for public speaking, and this is how this podcast came about, right?
Yep.
And people are like, oh, that's the power of one post. And I was replying to comments, I was like, no. That's the power of 5 years of cultivating an audience, building thought leadership content, doing the work, sharing the results, building relationships online and offline, and building audience through understanding how to write copy, understanding social selling, understanding sales funnels, right? So people only see that final end product. You've got to do that work in between.
And that's really important, by the way.
Right.
Again, again, social media expectation versus reality.
Yeah.
Like, it does take a lot of work, and it does take a long time.
Yeah.
So, I mean, also not getting disheartened really quickly as well, expecting, okay, I'm going to post 5 times a week for the next 5 months, and bam, I'm going to make 50K a month. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
Like, it takes a long time. People don't see the last 5 years when people did not know social media, well, LinkedIn and, the power of LinkedIn, which, we all understand today. You started way back when. So I think that's really important. Of that, what's also interesting is, you spoke about giving more, so, the perceived value versus the actual delivery. Like, deliver so much more, especially in the beginning, and charging less. But then, money is also important.
Yeah.
A lot of people also have a problem in asking for money and charging a premium. So, how do you then tackle that? I would say the last part is, the monetary aspect of things.
It's a really tricky one because there's so much different advice out there. Some people will say charge really low rates, prove concepts, and then slowly increase. And other people will tell you, well, if you're not charging this much, you're not going to be taken seriously anyway. So you may as well charge that much. And then I'm like, how much do I charge? Right? And I think what you've got to do, again, it comes back to how confident are you in what you're selling? If you feel genuinely that this person is going to make more money or benefit from your service because of the price you're charging, go for it. But if you feel a bit, actually, I'm pushing it here, because I know people who have come at me with ridiculous prices for a service, and then I'm like, I know you're working with somebody else and they're paying half the price. Are you just making up numbers on the spot? So you've got to be sensible and be realistic as well, right? Like, you can increase your prices over time if you prove concept. When I first started, I was charging, for transparency, £400 a month for full service media planning management. There were clients who got millions of impressions and made hundreds of thousands of pounds directly from the work I did at £400 a month. Now I charge 10 times that for some packages that I offer. But it's because I've also got 4 years of learning and data and understanding and experience and proof of concept. But also, I've worked with loads of clients. If somebody comes to me now and says, I'm a tech founder, we're about to do a big run for investment, and I've got this tech software product, this is how it works, I want to build a personal brand. I'm like, great. I've done this 7 times already for founders just like you who've done the exact same trajectory, and here's the proof that it works, and this is the strategy we followed, and this is the data. This is what we're going to do for you. Now I can charge premium because they can see the evidence of the work, right? But I can't just say to them, yeah, I'm going to charge this much. And they're going to say, okay, what do I get from it? And then you're going to say to them, you get 3 posts a week. And they're like, but 3 posts a week, what does that mean to me?
Yeah.
Like, you have to think about, from a business perspective, you have to think, what is your customer getting? Are they getting an ROI on what you're selling? Are they going to make money off the back of it? Are they making a really efficient time savings so it's valuable for them? Are they going to get brand awareness that's going to then go into PR, media coverage? Is it going to convert into downloads of their lead magnet? Are they going to collect leads to go into a social selling funnel? You can't just think like, I'm giving you this, so you should pay me. No, you have to think in terms of outcome for your customer, because that's what they care about ultimately. So I would say, when it comes to pricing, think, what are they getting out of this? And charge appropriately for that. But also work on yourself. Because if you can't get over your own insecurities about money and finance, you're never going to be able to charge more. So you have to do some self-work in the process and understand money. and understand business and sales. Sales is the most sales and copywriting for me, the two best skills that anybody can learn. So yeah, hopefully that answers that question.
I'm absolutely loving this. It's like a mini social media workshop. Okay, so I think the final question in this workshop would be, okay, so I've understood all this, and now I want to launch. What? I don't know if you have an absolute answer to this, but what are the timelines or the somehow realistic timelines? When can I start expecting results as a solopreneur? The first 3 months, 6 months, 1 year,
It really depends on what you're selling, right? So some people might come with a digital product, right? And they want to sell a guide for growing on Instagram as a fashion brand, right? And it's a step-by-step how to grow on LinkedIn. It's an ebook. That is a very different type of offer than is a £5,000 12-week coach your way to achieve X thing, right? So it depends on the price of your offer, the time scales it operates across, how long it takes to deliver. Is it a product? Is it a service? It varies. If somebody said to me, I want to, in 3 months, achieve X, Y, Z things, and then they come to me with no personal brand whatsoever, I'm very honest about, I'm very honest. I had somebody come to me once and they said, I want 50,000 followers in 3 months. Can you deliver that? And I said, how many do you have now? And they said, 420, I think. And I was like, no, I'm not going to commit to that. I've nearly done that for somebody else. I got to, I think, about 30K in 3 months.
Oh, wow.
Person. But I was like, listen, if somebody's promising you virality, if somebody's promising you X amount of growth based on an algorithm that they have no control over, sure, you know the strategies and techniques that will help you grow, but ultimately you can't guarantee results. If somebody's promising you that, that's a red flag, in my opinion. And they were like, yeah, but so-and-so promised me this. And people say, I'll guarantee you get 3 to 5 leads per week if you sign up to this. Bullshit. You have to be realistic. So I never say to people, this is exactly what you're going to get. I say to them, okay, so tell me more about yourself. Tell me more about your product. Tell me about your customer. Tell me how they buy. Tell me how you think. Tell me how your service runs. Once I have a really good understanding of the ecosystem of your business, I can then give you a rough plan of what I would do to help you grow. But I can't guarantee results for anybody because it's a third-party algorithm. I have no control over LinkedIn. So I use the data that I have. I say, okay, this sounds really similar to a client that I had. 2 clients I had. One, we followed this strategy. One, we followed this strategy. These are the results. Based on your product, based on your market, based on the way your customers buy, I would recommend following this strategy. Let's implement it. Let's give it a go. We'll track granularly the data every week. We'll make tweaks and pivots. We'll have a check-in and we'll incrementally get better. If you want to work with me on that basis, let's do it. If this to you isn't a guarantee enough, we're not a good fit. That's how I tackle that problem.
I think it's one of those that perhaps personal branding is such a new thing within the marketing space, but everything that you've said is just marketing 101. If you look at any type of marketing that you do, social media, an ABM approach, I don't know, even performance marketing, even if you spend ad dollars or whatever, there's no absolute science behind it. It's trial, iteration, and then you keep on failing and it's iterating and just keeping it better. You're just making things better. Content, blogs, whatever you do.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Maybe people are just starting to come into the whole personal branding space, and that's why they're trying to treat this differently. But just going back to those people, I'm just thinking out loud. And again, for people coming to the space, what other marketing channels have you tried? And what is your success rate in that, and what is your absolute science behind that? Because there's an absolute science.
Yeah.
So why are you treating this space differently than any other marketing channel or activity that you're doing?
That's a great point. And I think I know why it is. It's because people see somebody go from seemingly nothing to virality. And we forget that personal branding, because we work in the space, we live and breathe it. To us, it's the norm. But less than like 1% of people who are on LinkedIn actually post, and we're in an echo chamber of seeing the best of the best.
That's a good point also.
Right?
Yes.
So we're seeing the top 0.025%, and then we're comparing our metrics to that. But also, virality doesn't mean conversion.
Right.
And I've worked with hundreds of clients who have come to me, or just people who DM me and say, I worked with this agency for 6 months. And I'm like, oh, it looks like it's going well for you. And they're like, no. They're like, I'm going viral, but like, I'm just not getting leads. And and then I look into the back end of what they're doing, and their strategy is it's like clickbait provocative stories, but they run a IT security software company. And I'm like, but your story is not connecting to your service, and that's the missing thread. Like, I talk about myself and my journey as an entrepreneur, and personal branding is related to my service. But if I was working with a tech founder, I wouldn't be talking about, what I did over the weekend. Maybe it might be I talk about how to build a SaaS startup from scratch. It might be like the best go-to market strategy they've ever come across. It might be how their CMO is building a social selling funnel for their business. It might be about what their engineers built in terms of a new feature of their product, or how they've just saved hours of time using AI to build this new software that's made it so much easier for their customers, right? So you've got to link what you're doing and talking about to your service somehow. It doesn't have to be direct. You don't want it to be salesy or over promotional, but there has to be a common thread. That's really important, and that gets missed so much. And I would rather have way less engagement and actually be relevant. But I bet you've fallen in the trap. I've fallen into the trap.
Oh my God, tell me, like everything you're saying now is like, oh shit.
Right?
100%. 100%.
Oh, my impressions are down. Obviously, because you're not speaking as universally.
Correct.
Right? So it's like, what do I do? Do I talk about my product more and try to sell? Or do my impressions are down, so are people even going to see the content? So should I just go back and just talk about things, clickbait stuff that I know is going to go viral? Like, if you want to go viral, I can't guarantee it, but I can get you very fucking close.
Yeah.
Because I'm 15,000 LinkedIn posts that I've written for my clients over 5 years. There's data that tells you what's going to go viral. But you can take those viral templates and use them. Is it going to serve your business in 3 years' time? You'll have a great personal brand. Maybe one day you'll start a personal branding agency, right? But is it going to help you sell your product or software? Probably not. So you've got to feel comfortable with that.
Yeah.
It's easy to get lost in the chase of, oh my God, this creator is growing at this speed. And some of my best friends in the industry have grown at 10 times the speed of me, and they started after me. But I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Because we're all on different trajectories. We're all doing different things. We're all selling different products. We all have different goals. Once you get comfortable with that, again, it comes back to self-work.
Correct.
Once you get comfortable with that here,
correct,
you're good.
There's a lot of bad advice out there. And like you rightly said, I've fallen into that trap as well. I mean, and that's really great advice. I also believe, I don't know if you feel this, but the LinkedIn game has also changed, and changed quite rapidly.
Yeah.
Like, I'll be like, just the last 3 years, like every 6 months is like a shift, which is just fantastic. Please do not post irrelevant cheat sheets or billboard quotes. I think those days are gone. I just feel the relevance is super important. Virality does not equate to conversions or actual money, like revenue. Like, you need to be looking at how much, like, how does your top line, bottom line, whatever, like, treat this as a business. I think that's super important. You need to give it the respect as you would give any business that you create, because your personal brand, remove the word personal, it is a brand that you're creating.
Yeah.
It is a business that you're creating. So I think that's really important advice, by the way. What's next for Shoaib now, the solopreneur? Is that gonna stay the way it is the next 3 years?
The next 3 years. Oh, I don't like planning long term. So for me, moving forward, is I'm really excited to just delve into the coaching aspect of my business, and I want to help more people grow on LinkedIn the right way. I think at the moment there's a lot of bad practice out there,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of people who pay for something and don't get any results and think that is the entire industry. And it's not, it's just that they've had a bad experience with a particular provider who maybe isn't as qualified. So for me, it's like raising the bar of the industry. I don't want loads of clients. I don't want to make loads of money, which I think I've shown that now. I just want to do really, really fucking good work. And the few people that I work with, if it's 10 this year, I want them all to walk away and think, bloody hell, that was an amazing investment working with Shoaib. And so my focus is impact over like quantity, you know, the quality of the and depth of work that I deliver is super important. And on a personal level, I want to build more freedom into my business. I want to be able to travel more. I'm building my mailing list. That's a big focus. I'm speaking on a lot more stages this year. So just, yeah, a bit of diversification, but always remembering that I have to have fun in whatever I do. And if the minute I stop enjoying what I do, I know that's time for me to pivot a little bit or try something different. So at the moment, I'm doing a lot of self-work as well. Just investing in a PT and speaker coach and someone to support me with email marketing. Learning is a big thing this year. I want to learn, I want to absorb more knowledge, and then I want to funnel that back into the business to help my clients.
You've come a long way, Shoaib. Long way
Thank
from
you.
from that kid, high school feeling, trying to blend in, but
Yeah.
is obviously standing out. What would you say to that kid today?
I would say to that kid, take bigger shots, take bigger risks, don't be afraid to fail. Those 3 things. And I say them like in my content. I'm sure I said them like last week. Like, if you do something and it doesn't work out, if you ask somebody a question, if you ask for an intro, if you ask to speak on that stage and you get a no, you haven't moved a step back. You're still in the same spot. But if somebody said yes, you've moved forward. So you either ask and get nothing and just stay where you are, or you ask and you move forward. If you don't ask, you're guaranteed to stay where you are. So the more shots, like the more hits you take, the more hoops you shoot, the faster you're going to move forward. So don't be afraid. Don't sit there thinking, I'm going to sit and wait until somebody gives me an opportunity, because nobody owes you anything. You've got to create them for yourself.
If you don't ask, the answer is always no.
There you go.
I love that. Shoaib, thank you so much. This was an absolute pleasure talking to you. I've learned a lot. I'm going to be using a few of your best practices also. I'm going to probably, try and reach out to you after this pod as well, because a few more things I think that we can collaborate on. But this was absolutely amazing. I wish you all the best for not just the next 3 years, but beyond. It's great that you're working on yourself, and really huge kudos to you for taking that decision. I think it's really important for everyone listening as well. Prioritizing yourself. Mental health is absolutely important. Things that we do not see. We prioritize our physical health. We eat well, and we go to the gym and all that. But I think prioritizing your mental health is super important. I'm glad you're doing that, and keep moving, keep growing, and I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. Can I also just say, like, based on all the the conversation that we've just had, like, I personally want to say thank you to you, because we talked about representation at the beginning, and just to be on a podcast called Immigrants, like building companies, is amazing. And there's not a lot of people in our space who are really like showing up and talking about these issues. So this to me feels like a really exciting, fresh conversation. So thank you, because I genuinely mean this. I read your content like daily, and I feel quite inspired by it.
Oh,
So to be here is like really nice for me personally. So thank you.
Oh, thank you. So you made my entire year, Shoaib. And thank you so much, because this podcasting is, as you know, is also really difficult. Then it's like, oh shit, like, do I keep going? Do I keep going? Do I keep going? But that
It's so
changes everything for me.
It's so powerful what you're doing, and I like long may it continue.
Oh, thank you so much. You made my day, Shoaib. Thank you so much, man. Thank you. Absolute pleasure having you.